Good evening, and we're continuing our study tonight in the book of Matthew, chapter 24. And in this session, I want to start reading at verse 36. And of course, this is the Messiah, Yahusha, speaking. And he says, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall be two in the field, the one shall be taken, the other left. Two women will be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your master does come. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in which watch the thief would have come, he would have watched and would not have allowed his house to be broken up. Therefore, be ye ready, for as in such an hour you think not, the Son of Man comes." Now, in these verses here, I want to go back and sort of dissect these verses. In verse 36, when he says, "But of that day and hour," the day and hour he's talking about, and the day that he's talking about is this time frame of the coming of the Son of Man. That's what he makes reference to. Now, the coming of the Son of Man, Yahusha, or the Messiah, is in two phases. It's quite evident that the rapture of the church, we've already gone over this a number of times, happens before the tribulation, and that's for the purpose of removing the bride of the Messiah from the earth before the wrath of Yahuwah is unleashed upon the earth. And keep in mind, as I've mentioned many times, we the church have not been appointed to Yahuwah's wrath. And so this time frame of the second coming of the Messiah, it comes in two phases. One, at the first phase, he doesn't come all the way to the earth. Just like he promised in John chapter 14 that he made a promise to the disciples and to us, because he's speaking prophetically of the coming church, that he was going away to prepare a place for us, and that he would come again and receive us unto himself. And of course, this matches the scripture in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 13 through 18, where the scripture declares that we shall be caught up to meet Yahusha in the air, and so shall we ever be with him. That's the first part of the coming of the Son of Man. Now, the actual time frame of actually coming back to the earth to defeat the enemies of Yasharel is at the end of the tribulation, and that's for a different reason and purpose. And in fact, we come back with him at that time frame. So when he's talking right here, when he says, "Of that day and hour knows no man, not even the angels, but my Father only." And then he makes a comparison in verse 37. And I'm convinced that these next few verses here, he's specifically talking about the rapture. And the reason for that is because as soon as you notice that Noah, which is a type of the coming, as far as the judgment that would be coming later in the time frame that he's talking about, just like Noah and Lot are examples of the judgment that fell on the earth with Sodom and Gomorrah at where Lot was rescued. No judgment could fall until he was taken out of the city. In the same manner, as soon as Noah entered the ark, judgment fell. That's why I believe as soon as the rapture happens, judgment will fall. And because the Messiah himself says that's the way it's going to happen. He said that as the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. In other words, it's going to be in a like manner. It's not going to be anything different. It's going to be just like he describes it here. So I need to stop here because I need to go into more detail later and in some more verses here that will take a little bit of more time. So thank you for joining me this evening, and please join in for our next broadcast. Until then, shalom.